Winter Bells, the Almost radio play. Written by Pen Stroke. Produced by Joehighlord. Chapter 4. Pictures. The next morning, Twilight in shining armour waited outside their parents' bedroom door, worried frowns on their faces. Velvet had been almost hysterical when they got back home from the banquet last night. She was busy listing off all the things they would have to sell when they lost the house because of her, and she did this, despite the fact that she and Nightlight had paid off their house's mortgage years before. The house was theirs, and Nightlight himself earned enough to keep up with living expenses and taxes. But trying to convince Velvet of that was like trying to convince a snake to grow legs in Riverdance. The bedroom door opened, Nightlight slipped out, and then he pulled the door shut behind him.
She didn't get to sleep until past midnight, but I finally got her calmed down. A cup of tea and the old family photo album. It works every time she's in a spiral like that. But she's not going to be up for doing much today, which means we need to make sure everything that needs to be done gets done. Twilight, you know where your mother likes to keep her to-do list, right? Can you go check it and see what we need to do to be ready for tomorrow?
Twilight nodded, quickly turned and walked away while Shining turned to look at Nightlight.
You know, she had a spiral like this before you were born. She was so worried about being a mother for the first time. She was panicking because she was sure she'd be a bad mom. You'd grow up hating her, then you'd join a gang and end up getting locked up for 5 to 10 years. But yeah, it's been a while since she's had one this bad.
The pair turned, and soon they were walking back downstairs side by side.
Finishing this book is really getting to her. I think she's afraid it's the end of her career. And you know her, she's always wanted to write a bestseller, one that every pony talks about. But time and again, her books fall short. And now I'm not saying that we're not thankful for all the success she's had. It's because of that we were able to make a good home for you and Twilight. Your mother has always just wanted to write that one book that every pony would talk about. And after years of trying and failing, I think she's starting to think that she isn't bestseller material. But don't you worry about your mother too much. Give her some time to rest and recuperate, and she'll be back on her hooves, bossing us around like the world will end if we don't get everything done. Now, come on, let's go get some breakfast before your sister finds Velvet's to-do list.
The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we shall not drift apart. We'll turn the seasons welcome each year. Together we'll face them without fear. We'll never fear. For as long as we have friends at our side, we can take anything that ever may come in stride. Earth ponies build and reap what they sow, while unicorns craft with a magical glow. Pegasides turn the skies up above. Equestria lives by a Canterlot. Our care and love, while different in form, our spirits are one. A circle of friends that never will be undone. The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we cannot drift apart. Though quarrels arise, their numbers are few. Laughter and singing will see us through. Will see us through. We are a circle of pony friends. A circle of friends will be to the very end.
Cadence, Shining, Nightlight and Twilight all joined in the applause for the bell choir, who were performing at the centre of Canterlot Markets. The ponies had combined their voices with the ringing of the numerous bells in a spectrum of sizes, creating a rich harmony of music that filled every inch of the market. It had been a beautiful performance, and each of the family chipped in a few bits to the bell choir's donation bucket. The performance, after all, was being done as a charity for the less fortunate of Canterlot. The quartet then turned and made their way into the market. They were on a simple mission, to complete Velvet's to-do list. The list that would ensure the following day, Half-Swarming Eve, would go off without a hitch. They had already accomplished some of the tasks. They had picked up another extension to the dining table, which would make it long enough to fit every pony. They had also purchased a whole new set of plates and glasses, along with some festive napkins. Now they were moving into the biggest one on the list, which is what had brought them to Canterlot Markets. They had to go grocery shopping. With Twilight's friends arriving from Ponyville the next morning, Velvet had planned a large holiday luncheon. It would be the most ponies the family had ever crammed into their home. That, however, was the trademark of the season, having way too many family members and friends stuffed into a single room.
Okay, once we're done grocery shopping, all we have to do is pick up the pies Mom ordered from the bakery and we'll be all set.
Twilight finished reviewing the checklist and tucked it back into her saddlebags.
Mom is going to be so happy when she sees we've got everything taken care of.
Twilight, you wouldn't mind if we stopped for lunch too, would you? All this walking has made me hungry.
Sure, we can grab something while we're here at the market and eat it at the tables by the bell choir. I don't know about the rest of you, but I wouldn't mind having a chance to sit and listen to them a little longer.
Oh, come on, Twilight. You can admit it. You just want to hear them sing Frosty the Snow Pony.
I do not!
I don't know, Twily. Shouldn't we try and get back as quickly as we can? We did leave Spike alone with Nyx back at the house.
Shining, Spike isn't the little baby dragon he used to be. Charlie's not really old enough to plan a bachelor party, but he's old enough to keep an eye on Nyx while we're gone. After all, he full sits her regularly in Ponyville when I need to run errands. I still don't know what Celestia was thinking when she asked Spike to plan your bachelor party.
And besides, your mother is there as well. She may be recovering from a spiral, but if something does go wrong, she'll hop right out of bed and help. I promise.
Shining huffed but nodded in agreement, and focused on his part of the grocery list. The faster they shopped, the sooner they could eat. The sooner they could eat, the sooner they could leave. The sooner they left, the sooner they would get back. And the sooner they got back, the sooner they'd be able to make sure that Nyx hadn't done anything to Spike or Velvet. Velvet laid back in bed, eyes following the subtle brushstrokes left behind from where they painted the ceiling. Next to her lay the family photo album and an emptied cup of tea, both from the night before. Nightlight hadn't been able to calm her down until after midnight, and even then she hadn't really gotten any sleep until about 3. After that she woke from 2 nightmares, one at 5 and another one at 7. The first had been a nightmare about being buried beneath books, the second having everything, home and family, taken away because Print Press took away her contract. After those dreams, she hadn't been able to fall asleep again for another hour. It was an almost near-perfect checklist for the worst night's sleep she had endured in decades. She had finally awoken at her own accord at approximately 11, but had not yet found a motivation to get out of bed. She let her gaze wander to the clock that sat on the nearby dresser drawers. It was almost noon. Half a day was already wasted. She would never be able to finish her to-do list in time. Twilight's friends would arrive to find the table bare. They'd all have to go out to some cheap, fast food place for their half-swarming Eve's lunch. Then, Twilight's friends would stop liking her, and she'd lose all confidence in the lessons of friendship she'd been learning. Celestia would then disown Twilight as a student, then Discord, or somebody else would come and... Velvet's mind popped out of its spiral. She sat up in bed just a little and looked towards the door as it slowly cracked open. For a moment she tensed, seeing a pair of serpentine eyes peek in from the dark hallway. But then she was able to relax once more when she heard Nyx's familiar voice come from the hallway.
Velvet, Spike and I made lunch. Do you want some?
At first, Velvet was going to turn Nyx away. Her stomach, however, rebelled against her mind at that moment and gave a loud, pleading grumble. Velvet blushed a little and set her hooves on her belly, trying to quiet its pleas, but the damage was already done. Nyx had taken a step into the room, revealing she had a tray resting on her back. It was simple, sandwiches and a glass of water, but it did look good.
Yes. Please, just bring it over here.
Nyx nodded, nudging the door open a little further before carrying the tray to Velvet's bedside. Velvet, in turn, gently levitated the family photo album further down onto the bed and set her empty cup of tea onto the nightstand. She then picked up the tray from Nyx's back and set it down beside her on the bed.
They're lettuce and celery sandwiches with cucumber. Spike said they're your favorite.
Velvet gently picked up the first of the 2 sandwiches, spreading the bread apart and smiling.
You even cut the cucumbers the long way, like sandwich pickles. Just how I like.
Velvet closed up the sandwich and took her first bite. She could taste just a hint of her aunt's dressing beneath the lettuce as well, spread thinly, like a sheet of frost on the bottom of a loaf of bread. Yep, Spike remembered exactly how she liked her sandwiches, the little dragon had always been such a wonderful helper, wanting only to make her smile. Still, as Velvet opened her mouth to take a second bite, she glanced to her side. She saw Nyx just standing there, watching her eat.
Nyx, dear, what are you doing?
Spike wanted me to bring the dishes back down when you're done so he can clean them.
Well, okay.
Velvet opened her mouth again to try and take a second bite, but still, she wasn't able to. There was just something slightly unsettling about having some pony watch you eat, chew, swallow, and dribble crumbs because the bread had been dragonfire toasted.
Nyx, maybe you could do something besides watch me eat. Like...
Velvet glanced around the room, trying to find something to distract the young filly. Her eyes then settled on the one thing that was both easy to access and would provide a good distraction.
How about you look at this?
As Velvet levitated the family photo album into the air, Nyx saw this and smiled, and with a strong bound jumped onto the bed. Velvet had a momentary panic and grabbed the glass of water, which threatened to fall over from the force of Nyx's landing. Still, Nyx was oblivious to the mess she had almost created. She was just smiling up at the photo album, an eager look in her eye.
You have one too?
What do you mean?
A scrapbook. Twilight showed me the one you made for her. Does this one have pieces of Spike's egg in it like hers?
No, Nyx. But that's because this isn't a scrapbook. This is our family's photo album. We only use this book for pictures. I keep a scrapbook for every pony else, but only really special pictures get in here.
Velvet picked her glass of water off the lunch tray again before motioning for Nyx to come closer. And, as Velvet predicted, Nyx bounded down the bed, sending shockwaves through the mattress that would have likely tipped the glass of water over. Still, Nyx soon settled in next to Velvet, sitting on one of the pillows at the head of the bed, while Velvet suspended the photo album in her magic. Velvet turned to the first page, using a hoof to point out a single picture where Nightlight was on a bended knee, presenting Velvet with the engagement ring.
My mother kept an album like this her whole life. It had so many pictures in it, but she always kept this picture slot empty. It was always meant for the pictures she could never have. A picture from the night my father proposed to her. And while I don't remember doing it, either I or my mother must have told Nightlight that story. Yes, he had to have heard it from one of us, because the night he proposed, he made sure a photographer was there. He then bought this album for me and put the picture in the first space. It was like being asked to marry him all over again. This here is Nightlight's and my wedding day. He was so handsome in his tuxedo. Even if his bow tie kept going crooked. I swear, I still think he was doing it on purpose, just so I could get close enough to him to steal a kiss.
Where was the wedding? It looks like you're all standing outside.
Well, we were. We had our wedding at the Waterfall Garden. It's a park right next to where the largest of Canterlot's waterfalls pours over the edge of the city. It has one of the most beautiful views in all of Equestria. Maybe not as fancy as having the wedding in Canterlot Castle, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. This was Nightlight and my first apartment together. It was such a little place. I don't know how we lived there for as long as we did, but it was the best we could afford. I was still trying to get published at the time, so he was the only one making any real money. Oh, and this is a picture from when we first moved to this house. We thought we were moving into a mansion after living in that small apartment for so long. But, well, we needed the room to grow.
What do you mean?
Well, take a closer look at that picture. Do you notice anything?
Is it that you have a silly mane cut?
Well, yes, but a lot of mares were wearing their manes in a bouffant back then. No. Do you notice that little bulge I have in my tummy? That bulge was shining armor.
You were pregnant.
Yes, I was. Oh, I was so worried back then. I don't know if I could have gotten through it all without Nightlight. He's so cool and calm under pressure. It's one of the reasons I married him. But still, you'd be surprised just how fast 11 months can go by.
Is that really shining armor?
Velvet nodded, a motherly smile on her lips as she looked at the picture. She looked horrible in the picture. She looked exhausted, and her mane was a wreck. But what else can you expect from a mare who had just given birth? Still, resting on her forehooves, curled up against her chest, was a little white foal.
Yep, that's him right after he was born. And so, if we turn a few pages...
With a few flicks of her magic, Velvet reached the page she was looking for. The page started with a picture of shining armour and nightlight going camping, but Velvet instead focused Nyx's attention on the fourth picture on the page. Velvet, once more, looked horrible, but there was something in the picture with her. A small little foal with a lavender coat and a purple mane.
Is that really?
Yes, that's Twilight. Hard to believe, isn't it?
Nyx could only nod her head as Velvet turned the page of the album. The pictures on the next page featured a number of other memories from when Twilight was young. One where she was being held by her older brother Shining. One where she had made a mess of herself trying to eat mashed carrots. Another when she was a little older, when she was about to head off to magical kindergarten. Then there was one where Twilight was looking out from the interior of what could best be described as a fort made out of books.
Hey look, it's Smarty Pants!
You know about Smarty Pants?
Yeah, Twilight gave her to me.
She did?
Well, actually, she didn't just give her to me. I found Smarty Pants in a chest at the library when I was putting something away, and Twilight told me about her. And I knew Twilight didn't want me to touch Smarty Pants after that, but I wanted to play with her. So after Twilight tucked me into bed, I took Smarty Pants out of the chest. I only meant to play with her for a little bit, but then I kind of fell asleep. But the next morning, Twilight said I could keep her. Oops, Mom said I could keep her.
Mom?
Yeah, Twilight's been asking me to call her that ever since the adoption was finalized. And I know she's my mom. She's the best mom in the world, but since she found me, I've always called her Twilight, and...
It feels kind of weird to call her something else, doesn't it? I know what it's like. Nightlight's mother wanted me to start calling her Mom right after our wedding, even though she technically was just my mother-in-law. But the thing is, she didn't do it for herself. She didn't do it because she liked being called Mom. No, she did it to make me feel welcome, to feel like I was really a part of Nightlight's side of the family.
So, do you call her Mom?
Nope. To this day, I still use her real name. But that's okay, because I know she still thinks of me like a real daughter, not just a daughter-in-law.
Twilight says I should call you Grandma or Grandmother, but I won't if you don't want me to.
Velvet tensed a little. Truthfully, she and Nightlight had, for months, been in agreement about Nyx. They both felt Twilight was too young to be taken care of a filly. There was also no ignoring the amount of metaphorical baggage Nyx came with. The shadow of what she had done was something that would hang over Nyx for decades, if not centuries to come, and it would burden whoever took care of her. And, to Velvet, it also felt like Twilight had done things out of order. A pony is to meet a nice stallion first, then date some more, then get engaged, then live together for a while to see if things are going to work out, and then get married, and then, and only then are they supposed to raise children. That was the order of things. That was the way it was supposed to go. It was as simple as an ordered checklist, and Velvet knew her daughter was capable of following a checklist. But Twilight had given Smarty Pants away, something Velvet thought would never happen. She herself had tried to give Smarty Pants away before. She had tried to donate the toy to a good charity when Twilight stopped playing with her, but Twilight didn't allow it. And, after that, Twilight took Smarty Pants and kept the toy in her room at Celestia's school, just to be sure no pony gave her away. Yet, Twilight had given Smarty Pants to Nyx, and it was a gesture that spoke volumes.
You know what, Nyx? You can call me Grandma if you want. Here, let me show you a picture from Twilight's first nightmare night. She dressed up as a book, and it was just so cute!
Spike! Nyx! We're back!
Twilight shouted into the house as she, Cadence, Nightlight and Shining Armour came in from the cold, weighed down by their heavy-laden saddlebags.
So how did it go?
Great! We got everything off Mom's list.
As if drawn out by the mention of her name, Velvet poked her head out of the kitchen door. A bright smile then flashed onto her face as she quickly trotted up to her daughter.
Come now. You honestly didn't expect me to spend the whole day lying in bed, did you?
Yes!
Okay, I'll admit. I probably wouldn't have been able to get going on my own. But when Nyx brought me lunch Spike had made, I ended up showing her the photo album. It was just the thing to cheer me up right now.
Velvet then turned and shouted back towards the kitchen for Nyx to clear the table.
Okay, Grandma.
Mom, does that mean?
I still agree with your father. But she is a sweet filly, and I didn't see any harm in making her feel welcome as long as she is a part of our family. Now, we need to get everything put away, especially the groceries. So come on, march those flanks into the kitchen. Up 1, up 2, up 3.
Twilight and Cadence shared in a giggle while Nightlight rolled his eyes. Velvet was back to normal, running the house like putting away the groceries quickly would somehow save Equestria. Shining, however, didn't share in the giggles of his sister and wife. No, his brow was furrowed and his jaw clenched as the hairs on the back of his neck began to stand on end.
Come on, Shining. We need to wash those new plates before we put them away.
Sorry, I was just wiping my hooves.
Shining then began stepping forwards towards the kitchen while forcing a smile onto his face.
Here, Mom, let me get that for you.
Shining, enough. You've been hovering over me ever since you got home. I'm fine, really.
Are you sure? You aren't feeling dizzy or not yourself?
Shining, I am fine. And I appreciate all the help in the kitchen, really. But I'm not a senile old mare who's going to drop everything because she forgot she was carrying something with her magic. If any pony needs your help, it's your father. He's still fussing over the fireplace, and he won't stop until some pony tells him the logs look perfect.
Shining nodded as he and his mother began to walk towards the living room, where the rest of the family was gathered, wrapped in cosy blankets. Twilight was sat with Nyx and Spike in one small chair. Cadence sat on the couch, keeping a space warm for her and Shining to share, and Nightlight was at the fireplace, focused on carefully assembling and stacking the logs in the fireplace.
Why hasn't he lit the fire yet?
He's still working on getting the logs stacked right.
But how hard can it be to stack logs?
It's very hard, Nyx. The perfect hearths-warming fire is a tradition from my side of the family. If the logs aren't stacked just right, the fire won't be warm enough, and it might not be bright enough. Or we'll be able to see the parts of the wood through the fire. No, the perfect hearths-warming fire looks like a magical fire, burning out of thin air as it hides the logs from view.
So how much longer is it gonna be? My scales are freezing.
Oh, not much longer. 10, 15 minutes tops. Now, Shining, get over there and hold that log up for me.
Spike groaned and retreated further into the blanket as Shining walked up beside his father, holding a few logs in place while Nightlight carefully packed and spread for kindling.
Hey, Twilight, can we go burn that little log I got while we wait?
That's not a bad idea. We are going to be at the pageant tomorrow night and the princess's holiday party the next day, so this is probably the best time. Run upstairs and get it. I'll grab our coats and we'll meet you by the back door.
Nyx nodded and was soon scampering up the stairs to retrieve the small, thin piece of wood. At the same time, Twilight began to get into her coat while looking back at the rest of the family.
Any pony want to join us?
No way. I'm cold enough as it is.
Nope, we have to get this fire ready. Shining, move it just a little. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, hold it there.
I think I'd rather just sit here and get off my hoofs for a bit, if you don't mind.
What about you, Cadence?
Cadence nodded and rose from his seat.
Are you sure? It's cold outside.
Yes, I'm sure. I haven't seen Canterlot at night since the wedding. And getting a little cold will make snuggling on the couch with you in front of the fire even better.
Cadence levitated her coat out of the closet, while, at the same time, grabbing a cookie off the tray Velvet had brought in from the kitchen.
Just call us when you're ready to light the fire.
A puff of steam curled up from Twilight's mouth as she stood in front of the family's old charcoal grill. Nyx was standing back with Cadence in the shallow blanket of snow, waiting for the promised warm fire. The log that Nyx had picked out from LumberJack's emporium sat on where the charcoal was supposed to go, and Twilight had removed the metal bar she was supposed to cook the food on. Now, the grill was nothing more than a high-standing metal fire pit.
Okay, here we go.
Twilight took a few steps back. A small pop of magic from her horn and the log was soon wrapped in warm, crimson flames. But soon after starting to burn, the flames began to change colour. Most of the flames turned white, while some became a bright, festive red. Nyx and Cadence came up behind Twilight, all of them drawing close to the fire, enjoying the warmth from their faces. Cadence then took a deep breath, smelling the fresh, minty scent that flowed in through her nostrils. Suddenly Nyx snapped her head to one side and focused her ears forward.
Did you hear something?
Cadence and Twilight looked in the same direction as Nyx, ears standing erect as they listened closely. The yard was still, a smooth blanket of snow. There were a few mounds here and there from where the snow had drifted into a pile, but otherwise, it was pristine.
Wait, I think I hear it too. It sounds like bells.
It must be coming from the bell tower at the castle. Those are the biggest and loudest bells in all of Canterlot. I bet they've started playing carols, like they do every year. Yeah. Can you hear it? They're playing the heart-warming carol. The fire of friendship lives in our hearts. As long as it burns, we shall not drift apart.
Twilight has a thing for bells.
I do not have a thing for bells. A thing for bells would imply that I have an unhealthy or unnatural obsession with them. No, I enjoy bells, particularly around this time of year.
Why's that?
To me, bells represent the spirit of the season. A single bell ringing doesn't make music. It's only when a bunch of different kinds of bells, big and small, come together that they can make music. They play the carols, and it's like the sky and wind are singing along. It's just like the heart-warming legend. Not one kind of pony could have made this kingdom. It was only when all three tribes worked together that Equestria was born. Different kinds, big and small, coming together to face adversity in the name of peace and harmony.
That, and it's about the only instrument you know how to play.
I can play other things.
Really? Name something else.
I can sing.
Okay, Twilight, whatever you say.
Cadence rolled her eyes as a small chuckle escaped her lips. Nyx then joined in on the giggles, and soon Twilight was pulled in as well, as she realised how silly she was acting. The trio then shared in a laugh before going back to watching the candy conifer burn, and listening to the ringing of the bells in the wind.
Girls, we're ready!
Okay, we're coming.
Go ahead and take Nyx inside. I'll put out the fire.
You sure?
Yeah, it'll only take a minute.
Twilight didn't need to be told twice. She and Nyx quickly retreated back into the warm house. At the same time, Cadence approached the grill, pondering a moment how best to put out the fire. In the end, she settled on using a bit of magic. She wrapped the log and its flames in an airtight bubble, then waited patiently as the fire burnt through its supply of oxygen. Soon, only glowing embers remained, and Cadence nodded in satisfaction before she closed the lid on the grill and jogged back inside. Nightlight sniffed at his mug of hot chocolate, drawing in the sweet aroma before he looked out over the rest of his family. The perfectly stacked yet unlit fireplace was waiting for a small spark. Still, before that, Nightlight cleared his voice and began speaking with a smile, for the fireplace could not be lit without a speech.
For those who don't know, a tradition that has been passed down from my father and my grandfather is that on the night before Hearths-warming Eve, the family comes together to light a traditional hearth-warming fire. A fire we enjoy on this peaceful night before all the festivities, pageants, and parties we'll be enjoying over the next few days. And this year, I'm glad to welcome 2 new ponies to our home for this tradition. First, my son's beautiful and caring wife. Many know her only as Princess Mia Mora Cadenza, but we know her as Cadence, the best full sitter and best daughter-in-law this family could have ever asked for.
Cadence blushed and nuzzled into Shining Armour's neck. He, in turn, smiled and planted the gentlest of kisses on her forehead, while every pony else looked on with smiles.
I'm also happy to welcome Nyx. She gave us all quite a scare earlier this year. But Hearths-warming Eve is a time to forgive and to forget. It's a time for earth ponies, unicorns, pegasi, and alicorns to come together in the spirit of harmony. So, let us all come together, warm our stomachs with hot chocolate, warm our hooves with this fire, and warm our hearts with friendship and harmony.
Every pony lifted their mugs as Nightlight turned, and, with a flick of his horn, he set a small fire spell at the heart of his carefully stacked logs. The fire grew quickly, and, as the wood began to burn, the amber flames began to turn a bright, festive pink, perfectly mimicking the fabled fire of friendship from the Hearths-warming stories.
Beautiful as always, Nightlight.
Nightlight then sat down beside Velvet on the couch, and the pair snuggled beneath the blanket together.
Thank you, honey.
The family then settled in to enjoy a cosy evening by the fire. The hot chocolate was sweet and warm in their mouths, and the cookies were a delight. Nothing needed to be said, no games needed to be played. It was just a time to sit, relax, and rest. That was, until Nightlight glanced up and saw a tower of pink fire in their backyard.
I'll put out the fire.
You sure?
Yeah, it'll only take a minute.
Cadence suffocated the fire a few moments later, and, with a small thunk, pulled the door to the house shut behind her. The backyard of the house became still, with the only sound being the distant ringing of the bells. Until there was a shifting sound. A crunching and cracking of the snow being crushed under hoof began to dance in the wind. Then, from beneath the blanket of snow, a pair of mounds began to rise. Colin pushed the hoof up through the snow and quickly crawled back to the surface. He shook the snow off that stuck to him. Every inch of his body was protected from the cold by winter clothes. Jacket, snow pants, boots, ski mask and goggles made him look like a pony who was about to face the tundras of the frozen north. Colin wasn't alone either. The other mound of snow that had begun to rise up in the backyard was Quicksnap. He was dressed similarly, though with the addition of wing mittens.
That was close.
Colin began to move slowly towards the family's house. He then chuckled, looking back at the snow as he cast his magic across it. The hoofprints he was leaving began to pop back up, as if the snow had never been stepped on.
By Celestia, I love it when it snows.
You know what I would love? Hot chocolate, and gallons of it. Sweet Luna, I've got snow in my coat.
Shh! You want to blow our cover?
Yes, Colin, we went out here for hours, and we had to dive into the snow when those mares came out. For what? We haven't learnt anything new about that filly.
Didn't you hear them? Weren't you listening?
No, I wasn't. I kind of had snow in my ears.
The filly's name is Nyx, and when a reporter has a name, you can do research. We can check the school registries for Ponyville. We can check the government logs for publicly filed documents. Oh, I can dig up so much dirt.
Then let's go do that, in a nice, warm office.
We will, in a bit. I want to listen into what they're saying for a little longer.
Quicksnap groaned, but knew he wasn't going to win the argument. Colin had already cast an eavesdropping spell, and was now standing by the back door as he listened into the family. This left the half-frozen Quicksnap to his own devices, and, after shivering in the snow for a few moments, his eyes were drawn to the grill. Trotting over, Quicksnap saw the piece of wood the three mares had been burning. It was still largely intact, and he could still see some glowing embers. It was a blessing, and Quicksnap gingerly flapped his wings over the little log. The embers glowed brighter with each flap, and, with a triumphant smile, Quicksnap got the fire burning again. Oh, sweet warmth.
What do you think you're doing?
Colin quickly levitated the burning wood out of the grill and held it in his magic. Trying to prevent myself from getting frostbite.
Quicksnap, you idiot! They'll see the light!
Then I'll move the grill away from the window. Come on, Colin. I can't feel my wings.
You're still such a newbie. No, I'm putting this fire out right now.
Colin turned and tossed a piece of wood over his shoulder. He had been aiming for the deep bank of snow in the yard, intending to douse the small log and ensure that Quicksnap couldn't relight it. But instead of sinking into the snow, the log bounced with a metallic thud. The log had bounced off a lawn chair that had been left to suffer in the elements, buried in the snow, and that one bounce sent the log flying towards something else in the yard. The stack of firewood the family had brought for Hearths warming. The small piece of burning wood fell at the foot of the logs and rolled beneath the tarp that had been placed over them to keep them dry. The tarp was the ignition. The material it was made out of was good for keeping moisture away, but it was also highly flammable. The tarp caught fire with a flash, and it wasn't long before the intense flames began to spread to the logs the tarp had been protecting. The fire shifted colour from a brilliant orange to a perfect half-swarming pink as the flames began to stretch higher and higher as the fire burned hotter and hotter. The door to the house slammed open, making Quicksnap and Colin jump. The first pony out the door was Nightlight, who was looking on in panic as his jaw hung agape. He ran straight towards the fire, his panicked eyes locked on the flames. The cacophony of hoofsteps coming out of the house's back door made it clear the rest of the family wasn't far behind. In the moment of panic, Colin grabbed Quicksnap in his magic and darted around the far side of the house. They ran while he cast a spell behind them, causing their tracks in the snow to pop back up. They left no trace and were gone within moments, leaving the family to clean up the mess they had created.